Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for this very special report. This is for the new moon lunar eclipse that's happening on December 14th, all the way up until the solstice, which is on December 21st, and really through up until Christmas Eve. This is what this report is going to entail. It is currently the 12th of December, and this is the threshold. The Stargate is opening. This Aquarian Stargate is opening as of today. And I actually wanted to get this report out yesterday for the timing of it, but it was really imperative that I waited. And I see now why, because I needed to be way more grounded to give this report, because this is probably one of the most important reports I've ever given as an astrologer. And the impact of not only this eclipse, but this solstice conjunction with Jupiter and Saturn is going to affect us not only in the months to come, definitely up through the spring, but also what happens in this week specifically up until Christmas is going to impact us for the rest of our lives. So this is an important time, and I wanted to make sure that I was really grounded, and there were certain messages that needed to come in. There were certain events that needed to transpire first before I could have the full picture. So if you were waiting on it, and I did say I was going to have it yesterday, sorry, not sorry, because it was really important to wait. So we probably now know that the SCOTUS had denied the Texas lawsuit case, and that seems like, well, everybody has a different, I'm sure has a different opinion of what that means. But what it does also mean is that the gap is narrowing into very specific trajectories. And we're going to talk about the constellations, some fixed stars that are associated with this eclipse. We're going to talk about a certain person's chart that is absolutely and unequivocally connected to this eclipse so strongly, and what the symbolism and the archetypal meanings, because it's beautiful, and it is, if we carry love and compassion through this time, we are going to just soar. But it's really important that we understand that not everybody's intentions are in the same place, and it's important to have a really well-rounded perspective and understanding of these archetypes and what they mean, because a total solar eclipse is not necessarily a great omen, okay? And the path of totality is through Chile and Argentina. And if you do a little bit of research about them, they really struggled with their border after the Spanish colonialists left. So when the Europeans and the Spanish came to South America and really took over and enacted their imperialist agenda, when they left, those two countries really struggled to determine their border with each other. So I just want you to keep that in mind as we move through these times, because there are some overlapping themes here that may come out as a result of this solar eclipse. And I haven't done, a ton of research. It really just took a little bit of reading to see that they, in the late 1800s, needed to enact a treaty in order to determine their borders with each other. So again, this theme, and I'm not trying to be necessarily focusing on that as a potential or giving that all the energy, but it's really important, again, that we are looking at these cycles that come back around, and we look at the layers of possibility when it comes to these astrological events. They are really important. And so what happens in a solar eclipse? Well, because we are on, the sun and the moon are actually on the moon's nodes, the moon passes directly in front of the sun. It always does at a new moon. That's why we only see the dark side of the moon at a new moon, because the sun is shining on the far side of the moon. But because they are on the nodes of the moon, which is a position, it completely blocks out the sun. And so this will, we are still setting our intentions, right, for this eclipse, for this new moon cycle, but it will reverberate for much longer, because our emotions are going to really block and block the light from our own internal sun, right? Our self-expression of the intention that we're going to set is not going to be as forthright as it usually is with any new moon cycle. So that's why it's going to last for a long time. So it's going to also be really important that in these next 2 days, the 12th and the 13th, as the moon is in its darkest phase, we are allowing ourselves to really sink into this place, to be still, to be quiet, to be receptive, to be very keen on our own subconscious stirrings and the messages coming in, especially because there are going to be, the moon is going to trine, as you can see here, it's going to trine Neptune at the same degree that everything else in Scorpio has trined Neptune, except now it's direct. And so this degree, 19 degrees of Scorpio, is channeling. It is channeling transcendental knowledge, but you can only do that safely and accurately if you are really pushing away all of the ego constructs and all of the stirring of the emotions. We have to be very calm and drop into this place within ourselves to get this full unbroken transmission that Neptune is now representing. And there really is no way around any of this. The only pathway is through, and Neptune has made that very clear now as it's moving direct. And so we are riding that wave regardless. So we're going to go through all of these aspects. We'll talk about the weekend specifically, going to talk about the eclipse, give a general theme for the week after, and then talk about the solstice specifically. Okay, there's a lot of imagery here that we have to work with that can really help us wrap our minds around what is to come and what to expect and where to put our intention. It's one thing to put our intention with love and compassion and to not get pulled into the drama, of course, but if we understand these archetypes a little bit better, we can really enjoy this show that is happening, okay? So today is the 11th or 12th, excuse me. Let's go back to the 11th just for a second, okay? Because some interesting things happened yesterday. And as I talked about on the daily for the 11th that I posted here on YouTube, look what we had. We had Mars, it was trining the sun. The sun met the south node directly as well. And the moon had been in an opposition to Uranus. And I talked about that it was really important that we keep our emotions and our feelings calm, still, letting the light of our own subconscious really be reflected off of a calm surface of a lake here and we would be challenged. Because again, it's really about Uranus continuing to be the ripples and the disruption in Taurus, which is our everyday lives, what we value, the material world around us, and doing it in a way that forces us to see this, to trust in the cycles, the natural cycles, right? Trust in what is to come, because there's no stagnation in nature. The only constant is really change, and cycles are part of what we live with in natural law. Everything is coming in a cycle. It's an oscillation. It's a breathing, right? Breathing in, breathing out, contraction, release. And Uranus has been challenging us every step of the way to have faith in this cyclic renewal. And it does it by just disrupting, right? There's no grounding with Uranus at all. And so emotionally, we were challenged yesterday to really stay in our center and to be as calm as that surface of the lake bathed in moonlight, okay? So with the SCOTUS decision, boy, that really triggered people, didn't it? It really threw people into a tailspin. And with Mars involved, and the sun and the south node all in fire signs, again, it was really tempting to want somebody to come in and we're going to save the day, and we are going to assure supply for the future, and we're going to just wrap it all up. And it was tempting, wasn't it? And things did not go necessarily the way that some people wanted them to go. And that was very much reflected in this opposition between the moon and Uranus, okay? So here we are on the 12th. We're going through a birth process, and that came through very strongly yesterday in the intuitive read. And we the baby's crowning right now. This is the opening, right? The contractions have gotten us to a point now where the baby's head is crowning. This is what's happening. And so this whole week is going to be this process of this birth. And so, of course, birth is not comfortable necessarily. It is a challenge. It is painful. Some people can really resist against it because they're scared. They don't trust their body, right? It's really important to keep this in mind as we go through this process, because what comes out the other side is a beautiful new life, right? Beautiful new life. And that's going to be with the solstice, right? That is going to be that point of coming out and being a new life in this world, okay? So the 12th, we're looking at the 12th today. So I talked about the moon in a trine to Neptune direct, okay? And the moon is also going to meet Venus today. So Venus it's been really challenging in Scorpio, right? We've really had to just kind of sink into the muck of and the depth of feeling in the shadow realm of our relationships, of the world that we value, what's important to us, what's beautiful. And it's not very beautiful when we're like, literally sinking into the swamp. It doesn't feel good, and Venus is at her detriment, obviously, in Scorpio. But boy, we've been learning a lot, and it's been unavoidable in a lot of ways. So the moon meeting Venus today is in this degree that it's kind of this aggressive, but it's like this aggressive show of cultural values. It's like a military parade, right? And if you've ever been part of something like that, either in the parade or as an observer, you go to the parade, there's a real swelling of pride with these types of shows of cultural values, right? Because we're getting close to Sag now with the moon and Venus. Cultural values is a big part of the Sagittarian archetype. So, but we're still in the realm of feeling it rather than acting on it when we're in Scorpio. And this is really, I think, going to be reflected today with the events in DC. There's a huge march and gathering in DC, and I see this coming together. The emotional aspect of us, the personal aspect of us coming together with the people and the situations that we value and that we love coming together and really just expressing those cultural values, how we feel about them, and swelling with pride. That's really a lot of it. Let me get my notes and share with you the Sabian symbol specifically, because sometimes, well, not sometimes, Dane Rudyer certainly can characterize these things a lot better than I can, which is why he's my go-to with this kind of stuff. And let's see, Venus. That's the eclipse. All right, 12/12. Yes. All right. The feeling of social unity binds the individuals of a culture through collective pride. A member of the collective swells with pride and excitement when a display of the excellence of that in which his consciousness and personality are deeply rooted is publicly affirmed. So I really feel like that we're going to see this with probably a lot of events today, but the big one is going to be in DC today. So that is going to be characterized right here with this Venus moon conjunction. And then the moon is going to come to the degree that it was at the new moon. Okay, so now we're coming back to this Phoenix rising symbolism. The moon will come back to this point that it was at the new moon, and what will it do? Sextile Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, the lord of death and transformation, in Capricorn, has been in Capricorn since 2008, has just been pulling away all the nodes of the matrix. And this is specifically about the structures that enable us to, have a transcendent experience. And Pluto is just destroying everything. And what I will say is from like, this is more of a symbolic, archetypal thing. It's just everything that we thought was a structural institution that allowed us to have this transcendent experience, the woman entering the convent. I also would say that this is literally the destruction of the Catholic Church right now, which is really scary for a lot of people, because there are a lot of very well-meaning Catholics out there that probably don't understand the history of the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church. And that's a different conversation. But what I will say is that the moon will reach this degree of the new moon in Scorpio, the challenge to transformation, right? It is the crowd that has gone to hear the Sermon on the Mount, has been inspired, has been illuminated, right? They have the download, and then it's about applying it. It's one thing to be the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's another to actually apply that to your everyday life. That is what this whole lunar cycle has been about. And we're about to actually revisit that emotionally. And if we see that for what it is, if we set that intention originally and we were able to really cultivate that over the course of the last couple of weeks, then in a sextile to Pluto, it will completely support us through the destruction of what had been the structural foundation of our ability to have these experiences, which is the church or organized religion, or even just anything that the foundation of our society has provided for us. It's going away. And so we're kind of left hanging in some ways. But if we have been consciously working with this energy, when we come back around it, now that it's, we're here in a dark moon, we don't have the sun to also be part of this. It's just the moon. We this sextile will very much support this process, but we have to participate, we have to activate it in some way. And I think part of that is just acknowledging how far we've come in the last couple of weeks and returning back to that intention, how we want to be a new person in this world and to transform ourselves, as opposed to relying on what Pluto is pulling the rug out from under us, literally, when it comes to this, okay? And then, of course, the moon is going to sextile Jupiter and Saturn as well, and they will each move into Aquarius during this week, and then they will come together in a conjunction on the solstice. So late Scorpio, a dark moon in late Scorpio. This is a scary place. This is dark. There's nothing to hang on to here. This is bringing that investigation into the shadow back up to the surface. And if you've ever scuba dived or anything about it, you can't just like pop back up right away. You have to relieve, you have to acclimatize to the pressure as you come back up. And these sextiles, I think, are going to really support that process if we allow them to do so. The other thing I want to bring up is Mercury is at the degree of the third quarter square, the cultural and collective experience of a rebirth ritual. This was where the sun was at the third quarter square. The moon was in Virgo, the volcanic eruption. I talked about this on another report. I'll link it at the very end of this video so you can go back and listen to it. But what I will say is that Vesta, asteroid Vesta, the goddess of the hearth, she is the flame itself, is at this degree, is in a square to Mercury, the realm of the mind, this cultural collective experience of rebirth. It's going to come through in our minds, in our communication, right? In the way we think about things. Now, something that needs to be kept in mind as we move through this, Mercury is associated with the caduceus, okay? And the caduceus is the staff with the two snakes intertwined around it that represents medicine, okay? So keep that in mind. This is going to be really important with the solar eclipse energy. But for now, we again want to experience, I think, through our minds and our ideas and our thoughts, communication, again, this cultural rebirth, right? That we can all kind of commune together with. And Vesta at this volcanic eruption point, she in Virgo, right? Virgo is the sign of her priestesses, the Vestal virgins. She's supporting them. You think that they're not ready for this? If we have purified ourselves, disciplined ourselves, if we have in the name of service to the community, then the the purification by fire will be a purification and not like this uncontrollable release, okay? Now, the square to Mercury makes it so that in our minds, we want to experience this as this rebirth, but it'll be very, Virgo is about our bodies and what is happening in our bodies as well. And so there's going to be a challenge here today, again, with this square that takes us back to that third quarter, whereas that square in particular with the sun and the moon was about the two polarities of us, the sun and the moon, in this dynamic. And now it has to do with the realm of mind and healing, and also Vesta, who is the fire. So again, we're going to revisit that energy in way more outside of us, I think, as opposed to that crisis in consciousness that we experience with the third quarter moon. Okay, so this is the 12th. We're going to move now to the 13th. And we're, this weekend is really important to get us ready for this eclipse. Okay. All right. So here's the 13th. The moon was now moving to Sagittarius. We're going to start feeling a lift. We're going to start feeling a lift, even though it's still a dark moon. There's going to be some optimism, some hope, some sense of our community and our communal feeling is now going to have an outlet in action in some ways that the moon is going to represent. So that's going to be a little lift on Sunday. Mercury now is going to square Neptune direct. And again, this is about the pelicans, right? Wanting to get away from the menacing environment. And again, there's no pathway around this or above it, it's through it. And the square, again, is going to make that very clear with where Mercury is in the mind. We're going to want to soar above all of this and get to a place that's safer. And it's not to say that that's a good or a bad thing. The challenge will come from Neptune. That's like, well, that's great, but the ocean is still where you get all your food, and the tsunami is coming, and you can't just fly above it forever. You have to come back down into the ocean in order to get your needs met. And when we're talking about Neptune and Pisces, this is about just dissolving into everything, right? In order to get the unbroken chain of divine source knowledge. This is where Neptune and Pisces is. So again, Mercury, there's just so much with Sagittarius that the collective value of truth and justice and the what we create together as a result of our collective action is so strong here with all of this, especially the eclipse. And Neptune, every step of the way, has been challenging all of this. And you can really feel that in terms of what we want to do, how we want to act, where our thoughts are versus just sinking back into this process and riding the wave, because it is inevitable, okay? The other thing that's here is the moon will trine Chiron. Retrograde is at a standstill now. Chiron's about to go direct on the 15th. So this is the wise old owl. If we can emotionally be poised, if we can see beyond the tragedy, this will really, really impact our ability to transcend our own individual sense of shame and wounding, where Chiron is the wounded healer. We really do need to see beyond the tragedy. And the thing about the owl is they are nocturnal hunters. They can see what we as humans don't and are not capable of seeing. And so emotionally, again, it's about that poise and that wisdom to see beyond the tragedy, to feel beyond the tragedy. And this will really support and is will give us a lot of traction here with Chiron in Aries, which is the triangle with wings, right? Like we're able to transcend our own sense of wounding and victimhood if we are able to see beyond what our normal consciousness allows us to. And we're talking about the moon, so we are talking about the feeling structures, the emotional impact. This is on the 13th, on Sunday. So certainly getting more optimistic, and this is really going to help us navigate through difficult times. So now we come to the eclipse. All right, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, so the eclipse happens about 11:15. Let's see here. Let's move a couple hours forward. 11:15 Eastern Standard Time at 23 to 24 degrees Sagittarius. Okay, now we're going to talk about first the Sabian symbol here, because that is very important and it says a lot about how the next couple of months are really going to go. So we are, look at all of this. It's conjunct Mercury, right? The moon is right on top of the sun. It's just past the south node here, which is our karmic history, our karmic mastery. It is where we are coming from. It is the tail of the dragon of our collective soul. This degree, 24 degrees, is a bluebird perched on the gate of a cottage. The reward, which meets every effort at integration into a social environment for those who remain true to their own selves, okay? It's a technique for successful living. The development of a consciousness in which peace and happiness dwell, okay? The bluebird is usually a very good luck symbol perched on the gate of a cottage, so it's showing that we're almost home, okay? But it is going to be a rough couple of months, all right? It's integration into a social environment for those who remain true to their own selves, okay? That's the Sabian symbol. That's the archetypal symbol for the degree that the new moon solar eclipse, okay? So we really need to connect very strongly to the feeling of this, because we're not going to be able to fully express this right away, not even in this current lunar cycle. It's going to be playing out over months ahead, okay? But this is this is a lot of good fortune involved, which is bizarre for an eclipse, a solar eclipse like this, a total solar eclipse. It's not going to wrap itself up into a nice little package anytime soon. But if we are true to ourselves, okay, and we feel that, we will be able to express that and to embody this symbol, this bluebird perched on a cottage. We're almost home, right? We're so close, but we have got to stay true to ourselves and know that it's not going to wrap itself up. Okay, so now this is where it gets interesting. Well, not that it hasn't been interesting. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures. First, we're going to look at, this is Ophiuchus, the constellation Ophiuchus, right? The snake charmer, right? Now there's two different stories that relate to this constellation, or Serpentarius. One is that, well, this is an older man, so this isn't going to necessarily relate, but there's two that I found. One is that Ophiuchus, or Serpentarius, is actually the baby Hercules, wrestling the two serpents that were sent to kill him by Zeus's wife, Juno, because Hercules is the offspring of Zeus and a mortal woman, right? So that's why Hercules is the badass that he is, because he's half immortal. And Zeus is his dad, right? Juno, his wife, she ain't having it, right? That's the thing. Asteroid Juno has to do with our loyalty and our commitment, right? She stands by Zeus because she is his wife. But at the same time, betrayal is a huge part of the archetype of Juno. And so she is not happy about this. And so she wants to get rid of Hercules. Well, too bad that he wrestles the serpent in his cradle, right? So that's one. Now, the more relevant story here about Ophiuchus as a constellation and as a mythological construct, an archetype, is that it represents the god of medicine, Asclepius. Now, Asclepius is the offspring of Apollo and oh gosh, I can't remember her name now. So, and he was trained by Chiron, who was also the adopted son of Apollo. And we've talked about Chiron endlessly. So Asclepius is the god of medicine, right? So here we go. The god of medicine, the serpent, the caduceus wrapped around the staff of Hippocrates, right? The Hippocratic oath. Asclepius, the reason that he is a constellation in the sky is because he became so good at what he did that he could raise the dead, right? So let's look at a picture here. Let's see if we can find Asclepius. There we go. Looks like he's doing Reiki and massage here, doesn't it? Asclepius was able to raise the dead. He became the medicine man, right? Now, and because again, Apollo was his father, the god of the sun. So the thing is that Pluto was just like, oh shit, I will become irrelevant if this person is able to raise the dead, right? If death becomes irrelevant in and of itself because of Asclepius, I'm irrelevant. And so Pluto says to his brother Zeus, you got to get rid of this guy. And so Zeus kills Asclepius with what? A thunderbolt. That's very interesting. Keep that under your hat. That's going to be important when we talk about Aquarius, okay? He kills Asclepius with his thunderbolt. But because there was mad respect for Asclepius, they commemorated him by putting him in the sky. And so there you have Ophiuchus as the let's see here, the constellation. There we go, the snake charmer, right? The medicine man. Okay, so as if this isn't getting more crazy. So we have that. So here we are. This is where we're already in the zone, right? The Ophiuchus is from 27 degrees Scorpio until 22 or so degrees Sagittarius as a constellation. Now, the degree, let's go back. Hold on one second. Let's look at this. You see this? Ras Al Hague in the head of the snake charmer. This is where the eclipse is happening. This fixed star, Ras Al Hague, the head of the snake charmer. Okay. Now, let's look here. So we have this, and then we have Mercury also on top of the south node for the most part right now. What is that? It is a child and a dog wearing borrowed eyeglasses. That's really cute, isn't it? It's the idea that the use of imagination and make-believe in anticipating a higher stage of development. Now, take this into some sort of ritual context here. The medicine man in like an indigenous, like a shaman, right? An indigenous culture, indigenous spiritual practice, they would wear the mask of a god in order to become the incarnation of the god, okay? The medicine man. So here's Mercury on top of the south node, right next to this solar eclipse with on top of Ras Al Hague, okay? All of this on top of the head of the snake charmer, okay? We are talking about this anti-venom, right? This healer, this medicine man, and in the realm of the mind, actually putting on the mask of the god of medicine, the snake charmer, the serpent wrangler, the caduceus of Mercury, okay, is putting, Mercury's putting on the mask of Asclepius in order to become Asclepius, okay? Now, so right here, we already know that this is just like mind-blowing. Now, this is really, and some people may not like this, but I don't care. Because it's important that we are like looking at the reality of the situation and not our own opinions about it, okay? You see this here? Look at this chart. I want to show you something. Now you can't see it, the south node. Here's the south node of this person's chart. Right here. I don't know who's making siren noises. Right here, 20 degrees Sagittarius, the south node. Okay, we just said that's where the eclipse is happening. 20 degrees is where Mercury is right now. This person's moon, 21, right on Ras Al Hague. Okay, guess whose chart this is? Just guess. It's Donald Trump's chart. Okay, this man is the snake charmer. He is Asclepius, all right? That's his past. And the south node in the chart, in your natal chart, indicates your past lives, where you've come from, what you've mastered, what you're bringing in here. It provides the momentum towards where you're going. Now look at this. This is his sun, which means Mercury is his ruling planet, right? Mercury right now is on his moon. And his north node is where our north node is right now. So this individual right now his karmic destiny is absolutely right in this moment in line with our collective karmic destiny. His sun is in opposition to all of this, right? This man, his past and his moon in a fourth house, which means, the moon in the fourth house, the Cancer house, is he is the womb, right? And he pulls through, just like everybody does with the moon in their natal chart. They pull through other people's emotions, they pull through other people's feelings. The moon in your natal chart structures your consciousness through your feelings, okay? Everything about this eclipse is in this man's past mastery. He is Asclepius. He is Mercury with the caduceus. Okay, now something about these fixed stars, especially Ras Al Hag and Ficus in general as a constellation, but the stars, but Ras Al Hag, it is the head of this medicine man. Poison, infection, right? Wasn't the vaccine just released yesterday? This person is our anti-venom, okay? He is the snake charmer, and more importantly, he is the snake wrangler, and he holds the caduceus in his mind, in terms of his mental acuity, his mental process. And Mercury is his ruling planet, and it's right on top of his moon. So he's also pulling all of this through from his past to bring it in to the current moment, okay? So regardless of what you think personally about this person and his role, it is undeniable that this eclipse is absolutely aspecting him as an individual, and he is absolutely part of this situation karmically, okay? Also, if you want to look here, his IC, that was the new moon right here, 24 to 25 degrees Scorpio. The new moon was 23 to 24 degrees Scorpio. This is his nadir. This is his personal power. You know what this degree is? An X-ray photograph. His power, his personal power, the core of who he is, sees through all of it. The X-ray, he sees into what the structural foundation of everything. This is where he finds his personal power, okay? So just keep this in mind with this lunar eclipse or solar eclipse, okay? That not only is it going to, in the future, give, there's so much good fortune, and especially for people who are staying true to themselves, where this is going, but it is also absolutely about the snake charmer, the medicine man, and is completely aspecting Donald Trump's chart, where his personal power is, and his ruling planet is Mercury, and it's all in opposition to his 10th house, which is all this stuff, okay? I could go on forever about this. So I just want to make sure that you understand how absolutely intertwined all of this is right now. Okay, so let's move on. That's the eclipse, okay? So we're going to move on to the week. We're going to move through the week. I know this is gonna be a long report, but I promise I'm trying to stay as engaging as possible so that you follow along here, and go back and listen. If you need to. So here's what's happening now through this week. So Monday is the eclipse, right? We set these intentions for the months ahead. We realize that this is all about the snake charmer, the medicine man, the caduceus of healing, anti-venom, right? Donald Trump's past lives, absolutely. This is the slingshot effect that I was talking about. And it's really too about the birthing of something. And this person, in terms of who he has been in the past and what the momentum pushing him forward along our own collective karma being so intertwined with his, and the full expression of who he is in his professional life, is very much about being this snake charmer, Asclepius, okay, the god of medicine, pushing us all forward, okay? Now, here's the 15th. What is happening here? So Chiron's going to station direct. So there we go. That all of that retrograde work around Chiron and in terms of our wounding, the wounded healer, that Chiron represents, right? The original shame of who we are and how we identify with either being a victim or a savior through that wounding, right? This is going to start activating. It had been very internalized. We had been really going through a review, and now it's going to go back over all that territory again, except moving direct. And so this is going to activate quite a bit. Some people are not going to be able to handle this. And some people are going to, realize who they need to cut away in order to actually heal, or they're going to realize, wow, this is how I've been identifying as a victim, or this is how I've been bypassing my own healing by trying to save other people. It's going to come online very strongly. This is a good thing, but it's going to be very intense. All right. What else is happening? Venus, before moving into Sagittarius, sextile Saturn at the last degree, right? There's going to be a big relief of tension here with Venus at the last degree of Scorpio and Saturn in the last degree of Capricorn. This is Saturn's home sign. And actually, Aquarius was the other rulership of Saturn before Uranus was discovered. So also keep in mind that there's a lot of strength here with Saturn in Aquarius as well as Capricorn. This is the secret meeting, right? This is behind closed doors, the secret meeting of the people that run the world. That's what Saturn in 30 degrees, and Venus at the last degree of Scorpio is the relief from the tension that has built up and built up and built out because of everything that we have discovered about ourselves, about our shadow. And this has to do with the world around us, what we value, our relationships. And so this relief of tension, I think, is really going to, it's going to have quite an impact on who exactly is making these decisions right now. That relief of tension is going to activate this right before it moves into Aquarius. Okay, this is the 15th. The moon is also now going to be in Capricorn. So keep in mind that this is a little bit of a preview for the solstice and beyond emotionally. So the moon is going to trine Uranus. It is going to, it's going to square Chiron. So here we go. The moon in Capricorn is it's down to brass tacks here. We're going to start feeling very serious, very authoritative in our emotions, very focused on a collective goal emotionally, right? This is getting down to the nuts and bolts of it. And it's very much about creating something of structure and form that is not just about us. It's about the collective that we're part of. That is, Capricorn is about creating something, group integration. Of course, it's going to square Chiron, because Chiron's all about us and our own wounding right now. So there's not going to be a lot of time for this, okay, with the moon in Capricorn. It's going to trine Uranus. So that's, I think, a beneficial thing, because it is really going to, if we can just kind of recognize the roles that we're here to play within our own individual roles within the collective process, it's really going to help, find some sort of balance or some grounding here. And we are talking about Earth, right? Earth signs, Capricorn and Taurus, with this trine here. And then Venus is going to move into Sagittarius. And again, when it comes to our relationships, our projects, the things we love, the people we value, all of that stuff, there's going to be, again, this optimism, and we're going to go from the feeling of it into doing something about it. And, there's going to, like I said, optimism, hope, truth. Remember, Venus rules Libra, so she definitely wants balance, and Sagittarius is the spirit of the law, right? It is the collective value system. So we're going to start relating to each other through this, as opposed to this really murky Scorpio stuff. Okay. And then through the 16th, the moon still moves through Capricorn, and then the 17th is when the moon moves into Aquarius, and also Saturn moves into Aquarius. So here we go with that. We're going to get a perspective here that is, we're going to have this emotional connection. Look at that, 11:11. That's funny. We're going to have this connection here with our emotionally connecting to this, the concretization. That is 0 degrees Aquarius. Now we're starting to talk about Aquarius, and we'll get into some more constellation stuff. But the moon is going to connect with, it's going to connect with Pluto. It's going to connect with in Capricorn, going to connect with Jupiter in Capricorn, and then is going to connect with Saturn in Aquarius. Okay, so the moon's going to meet. So our feelings are going to find a really strong structural crystallized form when it comes to the ideal, right? The ideal moving forward. The concretization of an ideal, cosmic coherence. This is the Aquarian archetype. It is about balancing things with feeling, right? We feel it. The star card, trust, guiding light, optimism. And so it really depends on where we find ourselves emotionally and subconsciously, what crystallizes when we meet Saturn. It's all up to us and where we are positioned. This is the 17th. Moving into the 18th, we still have the moon in Aquarius. It's going to trine the North Node, sextile Mars. But the real action again is going to happen again on the 19th, where Jupiter then moves into Aquarius as well. And so expanding on that ideal, expanding on that cosmic coherence. Jupiter is the defender of our collective values. It is Zeus. And what does he use? Thunderbolts, right? Lightning. This is the Aquarian element here, is the lightning. Also on this day, the sun and Mercury meet over the galactic center. When I wrote this down in my astrology journal, I got a huge hit. Like, it was just a huge energetic rush. So I already know that we are going to get major downloads now from the galactic center on this day. It's going to come through really strongly, and it's going to want to come out and be expressed right at the galactic center. This is so exciting and very intense, very intense. Okay. Venus is going to trine Chiron, the same position, the wise old owl. So where we had felt it a few days earlier, this will become very manifest in our actual physical reality, being poised within our relationships, looking past the tragedy. And this can be a very difficult time, okay? Because we're talking about what we value, who we love. There may be some issues here that are going to be very difficult for us to stand poised and be able to look through the tragedy. But it will also support Chiron, that is in a position trying to transcend itself and its wounding and our wounding right now. So the 19th, I think, will be very difficult, but also there's going to be a big solar activity this day. Big. It could be really impactful. It's going to be, the 19th. Okay. So we're getting closer. Like I said, Jupiter has moved into Aquarius at this point. The moon will move into Pisces, and this is where it will be for the solstice. Now, the next day, the 20th, Mercury then moves into Capricorn. So then our thoughts, our minds, the communication, it's going to also get very serious here, right? We're going to start really getting down to the brass tacks of things, going into boss mode. After, right? Because when we meet at the galactic center, this is the sculptor, right? Sculpting. And once Mercury moves into Capricorn, it is now actually like putting it, finishing up the sculpture, right? Putting it into form. And the moon will also meet Neptune, so at the same time. So we're about to get completely consumed emotionally by the ocean of consciousness. This is oh boy. And then we get to the winter solstice, and there's going to be reports every single day along the way. So if this seems like a lot, it is. But there'll be more, and there'll be clarification. I mean, I'm going to need it too, because this is just, a lot of impressions right now, and how this actually plays out in real time is going to depend on everybody's actual choices and behavior along the way. This is just a map. So Mercury is now in Capricorn. We are looking at the solstice. So the solstice itself is going to happen at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun moves into Capricorn, right? This is the return of the light, because it is the darkest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And so then it marks the fact that the light is coming back. So Venus is going to quincunx Uranus. Look how close Black Moon Lilith is to Uranus as well. So survival is going to be on the menu in terms of people's instinctual reactions, survival mechanisms. Things are gestating below the surface in the actual Earth, in the physical reality around us that is going to quincunx Uranus, because Uranus is actually going to be shaking these things up. And maybe we're not ready necessarily to address the elements being formed under the surface, because Uranus is like, well, I'm tectonic action here, so I'm moving it all around. But yeah, here's the solstice. And then later that day is when Jupiter and Saturn come together. So let's talk about 0 degrees Aquarius. And then there's one more piece here that is important to talk about. So let's talk about 0 degrees Aquarius. All right. You know what this is. 0 degrees Aquarius is in the constellation Aquila. Aquila is Jupiter's eagle. Okay, so already eagle, right? This is representative of the United States. The natal moon of the United States is in Aquarius, by the way. And 0 degrees of Aquarius is this fixed star, Terazed. It is the back of the eagle. This is where the eagle of Aquila carries the thunderbolts to Zeus, okay? When we come together in this conjunction, so there's a lot of information out there about this, and take what resonates and leave behind what doesn't, because everybody's truth is going to be different around this, okay? Because we're all walking individually through this Stargate, and it will determine which trajectory we're going to be on, like I said, for the rest of our lives, basically. If you want to be in cosmic coherence, guiding light, optimism, trust, compassion, and the moon is in Pisces at the time of this solstice, okay? So keep that in mind as well, is that it'll have just passed Neptune and is now in late Pisces, and we are really starting to understand in late Pisces that the cycle is starting to end, and it's starting to differentiate back into individual trajectories, back to the seed point. So Terazed, 0 degrees, this is the back of the eagle. This is where Aquila carries the thunderbolt to bring to Zeus, okay? All right, this is 0 degrees Aquarius. So you have Jupiter, you have Saturn coming together in this. So conjunctions don't last, right? They come together, they disperse their energy, and they move on. So this will be a quick but intense kind of coming together and not disruption, but an eruption, right? Maybe like a thunderbolt, because Aquila is bringing the thunderbolt to Zeus at this time. And Saturn, for all of the negative connotations of Saturn, we are talking about the Lord of Time, what gives us structure and form and crystallizes into our karma. And so when these two come together, Jupiter's going to make it, is the defender of our collective values, is going to take this thunderbolt, and wherever it is directed is going to be absolutely structured and formed by Saturn, okay? And there's so many different characterizations of this conjunction that are out there. It's all over the place. So, but this is really an individual experience that is going to impact which timeline you are on, okay, collectively. And the other thing, so here's Aquila, Terazed, and I will say, I've said this before, 0 degrees Aquarius is my ascendant, right on Terazed. So, I mean, and Jupiter's my ruling planet. So I'm feeling this quite a bit, and in terms of who I am as a person being impacted like so strongly. So I don't even know what's going to happen. I'm keeping my mind open to just about everything. So not only does the sun move into Capricorn, 1st degree of Capricorn, which is very much about power, right? Is about institutional power, the power of a group coming together. We also have this solstice. And so wherever Jupiter is directing that thunderbolt is going to be crystallized and structured by Saturn. And that is the pathway we're going to walk. So be mindful of that too. And not only that, the solstice is the first quarter moon. So that means when the moon moves into Aries, it will square the Capricorn sun at 1 degree of Capricorn and Aries. And so at that point, emotionally, we are ready to come into form, right? This is the urge to come into form, to rise out of the ocean of the collective unconscious and be somebody, be an individual, unique personality. And we're going to really feel this. And the square with the sun is going to be much more about, what are we going to do? Are we going to focus emotionally on where we are coming from, or are we going to express ourselves through this claim for power and authority? Because that's one degree of Aquarius. Capricorn is the latent potential in everybody to claim authority. An Indian chief. Now, just keep in mind that these symbols were channeled like 100 years ago. So you have to look past some of the racial and ethnic characterizations and get to the heart of these archetypes, okay? An Indian chief claims power from the assembled tribe. Oh my Lord. See, you can see now how Jupiter and Saturn coming together with this sun, and Mercury's right here with it, okay? Claiming power from the assembled tribe. Are we going to step into our authority, or are we going to emotionally, going to try, really focus on ourselves emerging? It refers, like I said, to the capacity that's latent in every individual to claim and assume authority in a vital group situation, okay? This is an intense moment. Oh my Lord. And then we're really not going to come back out of it until the moon moves into Taurus, which is going to be on Christmas Eve. So even past the solstice, while the moon is still in Aries, it's going to meet Chiron, obviously, and then Mars is going to square Pluto, and this is going to be a big battle, right? This is on the 23rd. While the moon also meets, so the moon is going to meet Mars, and then they are going to square Pluto in Capricorn, and Mercury is going to square Chiron. So you can see that there's going to be a battle. There's going to be a really strong emotional connection to who we are, and really being a warrior, whereas Pluto is still just destroying everything that has made up our physical material reality for our whole lives. And then Mercury, again, in terms of the communication, is absolutely going to have there's just not going to be any patience or any room for Chiron when it comes to the communications, this whole victimhood thing. So I would also suspect that by the time Mercury comes around into Capricorn, we're going to see some shutdowns of communication, lines of communication. By the 20, and then when the 24th happens, the moon will move into Taurus, and I think that's when we are on the timeline that we're on, okay? And so again, that's really going to be, it starts now on the 12th, okay? It starts now, and it goes through this whole week into Christmas Eve in terms of this window of time where the baby is crowning and we're going through the labor pains, and being really tested. So I know this is a lot of information. Like I said, there will be reports every day. There's intuitive messages every day on Facebook for as long as Facebook is around. So please just keep checking back in. Let's stay connected with each other. If you have any questions, please reach out. My email is in the description box below. My website is in the description box below. Everything you need, really. The social media contacts, especially if you want to connect on Facebook. I do those intuitive daily medicine readings every morning during the week. And if you find this information helpful or engaging at all, please consider subscribing. Definitely hit the like button. That gets this information. And this is so important. I mean, this isn't about me. I make these reports and the daily transmissions. This is my offering because this is so important. This is what I'm here to do, is to be a guide through this process of the global awakening. So please share this if you think other people will get benefit from it. And please don't hesitate to reach out. I love you so much. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I will see you on Monday for the astrology and for the daily medicine. Take care.